Oh, that's nice. Wait. What? Oh no. Virus? Oh no. No. Oh no, that's not good at all. And it was at that moment that HSNet got destroyed with malware. Hello folks, welcome back to the HS Tech channel. In this video we are looking at the Christmas tree worm, and we are decomposing its source code, which I have right here. And, okay, I printed this on a laser printer that my friends and I also use, so I have this stupid message on here. But here it is, we're looking at CHRISTMA, not Christmas, but CHRISTMA, because we only have 8 character file names on CMS. And this obviously came out of a VM HPO 4.2 system because I never changed the system name, I never changed the accounting field, and I'm using the default user. And that was a real VM system that you saw. And we're going to decompose the source code, and we're going to see how this actually worked. So let me zoom in this camera here so we can get a little bit of a better view. And I'll see what I can do, I think that's good enough, to explain this. So, this is just the default print banner that you would see. I was very lucky to actually get this to spit out on a laser printer. Believe it or not, VM CMS, even to be a 40-year-old operating system, does actually support printing to modern printers through the LPR protocol. But you would see the script up to about here. Now, if you're viewing this on a 43-line terminal, it would cut off right about here. And the goal is that the user would not scroll any further, because when you get a file received to you on VM, you can look at it by using the reader list command, and you can press F9 to receive it, or you can press F11 to peek it. And you would see the first screenful of it by default. So yeah, let this exec run and enjoy yourself, and it's like, oh okay, yeah, it prints out a nice message here. Browsing this file is no fun at all. Just type Christmas from CMS. Okay, so we receive it, and of course this being a Rex program, the whole thing is gonna run, unless you're like lightning fast and you can stop it from running. But we'll start right down here. Now, if you don't know much about VM CMS, everything in it that you would do with like a shell script on a Unix system is done using a Rex program. And I know it's kind of ridiculous, and for all intents and purposes, I think it is kind of ridiculous, but this was the 80s. Things were a little bit ridiculous back then. But we start here with drop buff and make buff. Don't worry about this. This just produces a temporary buffer space so we can use like a FIFO and a queue in a way. Or in this case, a stack. And we're going to do QT. Well, what in the world? Well, this means query time. And this asks the system what the time is. And it's going to push it onto a stack. And then from there, we can pull elements off of it. So we can pull all these parameters. Now, if you do queue time, it's going to say time is now blah, 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 and then a second line, whatever the date is. So what we have to do here is verify that the date is within the Christmas window, I guess you could say. And it does this by checking if the month is 12 and something less than 2. It's a little bit of a weird algorithm, but as you can see, I actually commented it out. And Rex is interesting in the sense that it actually uses C compiler comments. And then there's a section that is now typed in uppercase for some reason. And then we're going to figure out who we are. Although the identify command tells you a lot more than just who you are, it also gives you specs about the system. As in like how under... Sorry, I'm thinking of indicate. No, identify just tells you who you are. So we need to figure out what our name is. So I'll obviously need to remember some of these variables, they'll come back later. So where WER is our username, because we're plugging it in here, and we're looking for a file on our disk called, what's our username? I don't know, Bob names. We'll say poor Bob got infected by the Christmas tree. So we're looking for Bob names. And then A is the disk letter, or well, VM calls it the file mode. Now fortunately, I have here a printout of a names file. Well, okay, this is a bit of a newer system, but in this case we have a nickname for a user at another node. So if you want to email sysadmin at VMESA, I know it's a default sysname, but you know, we just do note sysadmin _24, and then it will automatically populate our mail prompter with this user ID and that node. Alternatively, you would do note sysadmin at VMESA, as in you would actually do at, not this. That didn't exist. Not yet, at least. Well, it existed, but not on VM. If you had that, VM's going to start sending an SMTP email, which works, but we don't want to do that. And then here's me _44, and then this is my user ID. You probably already saw what the E stands for on that stupid page, that cover page, and then it's at this node. So what we're doing is we're going through here, and we're going to loop through this file. So we're going to exec IO, so execute IO operation of some kind, perform disk read of Bob names, and then stick it into a FIFO. And then while there's still things in the queue, we can pull nick, name, and then ort, which is the node. Because what's it doing? It's pulling nick, name, and node. And the special thing about this is it will automatically process the format of this names file by itself, because this is a format that's understood to MVS in the same way that like JSON is understood to a web browser, I guess you could sort of say. So that's what we're doing there, and we're going to acquire every name. And this is where it gets a little bit difficult. Name without an E, oh hang on, name without an E, this is where we actually grind through this thing, and what we want to do here is extract just the username with no spaces. So that's what this section here does, is it extracts just the username with no spaces. Then, as long as the name has reasonable length to it, and the node is, or the node name is not there, that means that it's on this local node. Because what's whoa? These variable names are ridiculous. Whoa is from identify, and identify tells us all sorts of information, including our username and the node ID. So if there's no node, then that must mean we are on the same system and want to propagate it to other users on the system. So in that case, our target node name or is whoa, which is our system's name. And then end that, because that was just an if statement. And then as long as the name is not equal to relay, do send file Christmas exec A to username at ort, which is the node, and then acknowledge. And this right here shuts up RSCS, so you don't get like a bounce back saying file spooled to user blah 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 blah. Which of course helps obfuscate the fact that you just sent a virus to everybody. What is this though? What is relay? Well, back in the good old days, when VM was actually a popular operating system, there was this relay chat server, and that was literally what it was called. Of course, nowadays we have IRC, Internet Relay Chat, but back in the day, we just had relay. And that's just what it was. It was a chat server that you could use on a VM system, and you would talk to it using the tel command, and it worked completely differently from IRC. If you want to learn about relay, Moshix has a brilliant video, and that's Moshix, like that. He has a very good video on how this relay chat system works. But in this case, as long as it's not relay that we're trying to send it to, send that file away using send file. Great. Well, that was half the fun. Now there's more. What we have to do now is we need to harvest as many users as possible we can send this to. So where do we look for even more users? The netlog file. That's right. That. Okay. Well, that's a little bit much. Demo netlog. So this right here is another file that we're going to query. And when you invoke send file, or SF as it's abbreviated in the source code for this, this will start logging every file, note that you send, or file and note that you send and receive from a network user. Bam, it throws it into the netlog file, and that is this. So it has a very easy to parse format, as you can see. File name, file type, mini disk. Disk? I actually don't know what that's supposed to be. In this case, it's supposed to be discovered, I guess. I'm not sure. We'll look at the next line. So note means it's an email, and file means it's a file. So we got note, WC note. In this case, note is the file extension for an email. It's on our A disk, which is like our home directory. Sent to root target user at bsdvm1 target node. And then here's the date that occurred on, which in this case was about a long time ago. So keep that in mind. I'll fold this so we can see that. So, okay, making our buffer, exec.io disk read, remember our username, Bob, poor Bob, netlog A, Telnet no FIFO. While queued, we need to pull kind. Okay, kind. So kind, file name, file type, file mode, fn, ft, fm. You see that in the VM documentation a lot. Action from ID at node, and then rest. So throw it out. If act equals sent, we need to, if ands equals 1, we will, okay, well here's ands, okay. If ands equals 1, then do okay ands equals ID. In this case, it's actually kind of like an array. So ands equals ID. So here's ID. Ignore the fact that's relay. I was actually, believe it or not, on the line that I crossed out here, I was actually priming a VM CMS service machine with that relay chat server. Pretty nice. And that's Mosix's version of the relay chat. Anyway, we are pulling the ID, and then at this point there's an indentation crisis. Python obviously would yell, but we're not programming in Python, we're programming in Rex. So we have to put in the indentation ourselves. So if ands equals 1, which means if we actually got something out of this, then okay.ands equals ID, okay. Nixis equals 0, another variable, and then figure out the length, and then if okay.i equals ID, then remember ID, there we go, Nixis equals 1. So this makes sure that we haven't already sent that off, because we don't want to duplicatively send multiple files to one user. That's effectively what this is doing, is it's essentially like a flattening algorithm that will make it such that it only sends one file to one user at one node. But of course send it to as many people as possible other than that. And as long as it didn't show up, send file CHRISTMA EXEC, no ID at node. And then end, drop buff, end, and end. I don't know why, but there's two ends. And there you go. That is the Christmas tree worm. This was the original worm on the bitnet. That's right, not the internet. The original internet worm was, of course, the Morris worm. But we're not using Morris. We're using, we're not using the internet. We're using the bitnet. So because of that, we have different rules to play by. And one of those was we don't have TCP/IP. So here you go. You get this strange array of hosts and names. I mean, this right here, this is actually like a bitnet address. WEC at ZVM62. That's how that would have been. And I know it's really simple and primitive, but this program did a lot of damage back in the day. It actually ended up crashing IBM's internal network called VNet. And obviously I was exaggerating when I said that I launched a virus on my own network. I mean, yeah, I got it to run, but I'm not out here causing a security crisis with this ancient virus, but I actually had some difficulty getting it to run. If you want to hear some experience on this, I was trying to get it to run and I couldn't because it kept appending CMS. It was having a problem parsing the names file for some unknown reason because VMSP4 CMS, as in the fourth version of CMS on a VMSP system, like release 4 is what I'm trying to say. I don't know why I'm saying this so weirdly. It can't parse the names file correctly if it's a variable record length file, which I know sounds ridiculous, but I was short on time, so I just said no names file. So all I did was parse the netlog file, but hey, the netlog file still had something useful in it because we got a working worm out of it, I guess. But yeah, there you go. That's the Christmas tree worm. Maybe if I'm lucky, if I have some more time, we'll look at the virus. And it's actually called that too. It's actually called the virus, and it's a program for MVS, the other operating system that you ran on an IBM mainframe if you didn't want to run VM. And it's actually even more interesting because it's an assembly program, and we're going to learn a little thing or two about System 370 macro assembler if we ever get around to covering that. But other than that, that's the end. If you have any other topics you want to suggest, please do let me know, and I'll see y'all in that next vid if I ever do make it.